Zenwork's Configuration Management 11 provides remote management capabilities that allow you to remote control any of your Windows or Linux devices that are managed by the system from within inside the web console, or the Zenworks Control Center as it's known. Here you see the Zenworks Control Center. If you go to the Devices page, you can then see that you have servers and workstations. Under those, you can select a device, such as JBlackett1, and then say, I want to remote control that either from the Action menu or from the Server task. When you say Remote Control, you can select the task you want to provide, in this case Remote Control. It asks for a password, and then it begins a remote control session. You can see the remote control capabilities allow you to remote control X-based sessions on Linux. In addition to that, on Linux, you have the ability to initiate remote SSH connections to devices here as well using a Java SSH applet. For Windows devices, the process is essentially the same. You find the device, in my case, the Windows 7 64-bit machine. You can then say, I want to remote control that device. Select an IP address or a name if it's resolvable via DNS. In the case of Windows, we can use rights-based authentication. This means that you've assigned rights in the system to the user to perform this operation, rather than needing to use a password. That then sets up a connection to the remote device, and you'll see we now have the ability to remote control my Windows 7 device here. Additionally, we can do things like initiate a remote file transfer, so that if I have the need to grab a file from the user's machine or put a file onto the user's machine, I can quickly and easily do that. All of this capability is controlled by policy. So you'll notice in this particular instance, the user wasn't prompted for permission at all. That's being controlled by my remote management policies and settings. For Windows devices, there is a remote management policy where you can control the specifics of how remote management functions. You can see there's quite an extensive list. You can allow the user to actually initiate sessions. If you do that, you can then provide a set of devices out on the network that are listening for those requests. You can then control whether permission is required, whether you get a visual signal when you're being remote controlled, an audible signal, so on and so forth. You can allow the screensaver to be automatically unlocked during remote control, so that if just in case the user walks away and you walk away, screensaver kicks on, you're not logged out, so on and so forth. You have the same for remote view, remote diagnostics. You can remotely execute something. You can initiate the file transfer. As you saw with the file transfer, I was able to download or upload files. This is controlled by whether or not you give the ability to download files here. And if you do specify that you can download files, you'll see the directory where this starts. Additionally, you can control the password from here, intruder detection behavior, so on and so forth. This can then be assigned to users or devices, just like most of the rest of Zenworks policies. So you may have one set of policies, which is the case that I have here. I may have this policy assigned to the workstations, and it's in effect as long as nobody is logged into that device. If a user happens to be logged into that device, I could then have a different policy that did require permission. For Linux devices, the process is a little bit different. You're going to go to the Device Management page, find Remote Management, and go to the Linux Settings tab. From here, you can specify what port the agent is listening on. You can also specify whether to ask for permission or not, and then you can define a password policy. Finally, both Windows and Linux can be remote controlled through a proxy, making this something that as long as you have a proxy in the DMZ, it would be possible for you to do remote management from outside of the firewall. Using Zenworks Configuration Management's remote management capabilities, you can quickly diagnose problems that users are having, fix those problems, or teach the user what they need to do differently in the future.